I bought this bottle of water at a gas station in Seattle for about $3.49. It's got this iconic square shape, a tropical flower on it, a slightly blue hue to it. It feels clean, it feels expensive. But here's the thing, this bottle is the product of the end of a very long story. And it starts in the mountains of Fiji, which is real. There's real people there and real problems. And the more I pulled on the thread, the more I learned that this water bottle is a masterclass in branding and kind of a disaster in everything else. So today, I want to tell you about the fight between FIJI Water and the nation of Fiji. How this one bottle sparked tax disputes, environmental debates, and a weird situation where the company named after the country almost abandoned the country. Because behind the marketing, behind the celebrities, and the volcanically filtered purity claims, there's a much messier story. So let's talk about it.
So let's rewind. It's the late 90s. Bottled water isn't a luxury yet. It's mostly for gyms or health stores. Coke has Dasani, Pepsi has Aquafina. But two California billionaires, Linda and Stuart Resnick, want to try something different. They buy access to an aquifer in Yakara Valley on the island of Viti Levu, and they build a brand, a really good one. The marketing is all about untouched nature. The claim is this water is filtered through organic volcanic rock. It's
untouched by man.
Until you unscrew the cap. They literally ran a campaign with the tagline, "The label says Fiji because it's not bottled in Cleveland." That smug, premium energy, it worked. Fiji water becomes a status symbol. Presidents drink it. Celebrities hold it on the red carpet. It becomes the official water of the Golden Globes. And by 2008, it's the top imported bottled water in the US. It's no longer just hydration, it's a lifestyle flex. But this is where things get complicated. Because back in Fiji, the country, not everything is going so smoothly. This company is pulling millions of liters of water out of the ground, shipping it across the world, and at least for a while, is barely paying for it. In fact, for years, Fiji Water paid a tax of about 1/3 of a Fijian cent per liter. That's not a joke. 0.0033 Fiji dollars, which is 0.0015 USD. And when the government tried to change that, let's just say things got tense. So here's where the story takes a turn. In 2006, there's a coup in Fiji. The military overthrows the government, and a guy named Frank Bainimarama takes control. He's not exactly subtle, and one of the things he wants is to stop big companies, especially foreign ones, from taking advantage of the country. Fiji is the biggest bottled water exporter in the country. Actually, it's kind of the industry itself. And at the time, they're still paying that 1/3 of a cent per liter tax. So in 2008, Bainimarama's government says, hey, maybe you should pay more. And of course, Fiji Water doesn't love that. And they threaten to pull out, and the government backs down, right? Because that's the entire industry there. But 2 years later, in 2010, they try again. They pass a new water extraction tax, 15 cents per liter. Now remember, this isn't a small bump. That's a 4,400% increase. And Fiji Water calls it discriminatory. They shut down the plants, fire 400 workers, and straight up announce that they're leaving the country. They actually put out a press release saying Fiji is a very risky place in which to invest, which reminds me of another billionaire in recent times. And then 2 days later, they come back. Plant reopened, operations resumed, no real explanation. What happened? Well, the government called their bluff. They said, leave, we'll find someone else. We only have the most imported bottle of water company in the world centered here. They even sent military personnel to stand outside the facility. It was like, cool story. The aquifer's still here. We'll just bottle it ourselves. So yeah, the company caved, they paid the tax and stayed. And suddenly, this wasn't just a water brand. This was a symbol of something bigger. Who owns natural resources? Who gets to profit from them? So Fiji leans hard into its image. Tropical, clean, untouched. The water comes from an aquifer that sits under a rainforest, and they bottle it on site, right there in Fiji. But let's talk logistics for a second, because this bottle doesn't teleport to your yoga studio. After it's filled in the highlands of Viti Levu, it gets trucked to the coast. Then onto a massive cargo ship, it travels 5,500 miles across the Pacific. Then it gets trucked again to your gas station or hotel mini fridge. And that trip is not free in terms of cost or the environment. So most of that goes into making the plastic, and about that plastic, it's all PET. Every year, Fiji produces over 500 million bottles, and they're all made on site from resin shipped in from abroad. Once they're used, most end up in landfills or as trash. And Fiji doesn't really have a recycling infrastructure like at all. There's one major landfill in the country, and they're all rural areas that that still burn plastic waste in pits. So yes, the water is from paradise, but the bottle kind of wrecks it. So here's the part that really messed with my head during research for this story. A lot of people in Fiji don't have reliable access to clean water. Like, I don't mean, the tap smells funny. I mean literal droughts. Families waiting for trucks to deliver water once a week. Boiling water in rain pots. Some villages near the bottling plant, like right there, they don't even have basic plumbing. Meanwhile, this stuff is getting pumped from under their feet, shipped to Hollywood, and sold for $3.49 per bottle. Some communities started breaking open fire hydrants to get water. Others bribed water truck drivers. Let me repeat that. Fijians had to steal water from their own country while water from their country was being exported and sold for a premium. So FIJI Water does run a foundation. They've donated water systems to a few villages, built some schools, installed some tanks, but it's still a small radius. There are hundreds more that don't have consistent access. So the question becomes, if you're extracting a country's water and selling it as a product abroad, do you owe them more than just taxes? So let's talk about branding. FIJI Water has arguably some of the best branding of any bottled all rainforest and volcanic rock and poetic language about being untouched by man. It's smart, it's slick, and in 2006 it got them in trouble. They ran this ad. It was just a single line which said, "The label says Fiji because it's not bottled in Cleveland," which, okay, a little spicy, but Cleveland did not find it funny. So their water department took it personally and responded like scientists with a grudge always do. They ran tests comparing Fiji water to their own municipal water, and what they found was, it was wild. Fiji water had 6.31 micrograms per liter of arsenic, and Cleveland's tap water had 0. Believe me, I'm just as surprised as you were. Other bottled brands, also 0. So now the whole ad, this whole idea that Fiji is purer than your local water, starts to completely fall apart. So FIJI Water, for their part, didn't say much for 8 years. And then in 2014, they quietly commissioned their own test and said, hey, we've got it down to 1.2 micrograms per liter now, which is under the FDA limit, sure, but Cleveland still had none. So this whole incident became a meme, the luxury brand that tried to drag a Midwestern city and ended up getting rinsed instead. It's funny, but also kind of revealing, because FIJI Water has always marketed itself as something better than soda, better than tap, better than Cleveland, but time and time again, those claims have sort of run into reality. And of course, right after the Cleveland saga, FIJI Water decided to pivot hard into sustainability, as you would after a public nightmare fiasco like they just went through in Cleveland. So they launched a new campaign alongside this in 2008 where they were going to go carbon negative, not neutral, negative. They promised to offset 120% of their emissions by planting trees, switching to green energy, investing in conservation. It sounded amazing. So amazing, in fact, that they went looking for the data. And here's the thing, the website where they tracked their progress, gone by 2011. Just disappeared. Independent reporters found they planted about half the forest they promised. Many of those trees died, and to hit their goal, they actually needed to destroy their original deadline, because they would have had to reforest an area the size of Chicago, and that of course didn't happen. And remember their bottling plant? Yeah, that runs on diesel, which takes each bottle 1.75 gallons of water to produce. So the whole operation uses 2,000 times more energy than tap water, and yet they still run ads with a little girl whispering, "Bottled at the source, untouched by man." I mean, sure, if you ignore the plant, the pipes, and the diesel generators, the cargo ships, and the lawsuits, then yeah, I guess it's untouched by man.
So what do we do with all of this? FIJI Water is a beautifully marketed product, but it's also a story about global trade, post-colonial power, and environmental PR. I don't think FIJI Water is evil. I think it's a mirror, a reflection of how companies build empires on stories, and how we, the buyers, often prefer the stories than the reality. So this video is not about guilt, it's more about clarity, because I'm not saying never drink bottled water again, or never drink Fiji, but maybe the next time you see a water bottle, could even be this one. Ask a few questions. Who owns the water? Who profits from it? And who doesn't even get to drink it? Anyways, that's the end of my first ever YouTube video. I totally imagine myself doing more of these, just need to figure out the systems to get them done on time. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you made it this far, this will be probably the worst video I've ever made, because I assume the quality will get better from here on out. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.